Good morning and welcome to TechTurks again. Today I have Ngozi Nwabueze. Ngozi Nwabueze is the founder of PocketLawyers. PocketLawyers is providing services, legal services to people in a different kind of way. So Ngozi, welcome to TechTurks.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, before I'm asking you question, why PocketLawyers? Why Pocket?
Okay, so let me ask you, when you hear the name, what comes to your mind?
Why? It's in my pocket, something I carry.
Exactly.
Well, I figured that I just wanted to hear it from you. So, I take it that you're lawyer by profession.
Yes, I am.
So why did you decide to go this way? And they have the chambers, and they get lawyers, and then they have the typical type of client and services.
Yeah.
What makes PocketLawyers different, and why that? What's the story?
Okay, so for me, it's very funny because my father is a lawyer. He's a professor, but he's also a lawyer. My uncle, that's his younger brother, is a lawyer, and we have so many lawyers also in the family. And we have a family law firm, right? But I decided to want to do things differently, right? So the whole idea basically started when I was working in a tech company. And I saw that they were building software for people in different endeavors of life. And I'm like, why isn't there stuff like this for lawyers to be able to offer services, right? And that was where it started for me. And that was as far back as 2018, right? But of course, there were a couple of stumbling blocks. Let me not say stumbling blocks. I was having babies. Okay. So by the time I was done with my third, I hit the ground running. And then I think the light bulb, the final light bulb, like the last straw that broke the camel's back was COVID for me. Okay. So I'm like, you see, if this existed, this would be a fantastic time for it. So by the time I was done, because I had a COVID baby, by the time I was done with maternity, I hit the ground running, and we're here today.
So before I ask for some numbers, so what is the customer journey? So what is the customer journey? Okay, so how does it work?
Okay, so initially, of course, starting out of maternity, it was a question of, so what do you do now? Because I had to shut down my business, my former fashion business, and then it's like, okay, what is that one thing that I can do by myself without any other person with the skill that I have? And it was legal services. So I said, okay, let me start. So we started to offer services traditionally, but of course virtually, right? And then we started to put the word out there. 1 client, 2 clients, 3, and then, word of mouth kept spreading. And for me, especially narrowing it down to startup law, it basically was because I was also a startup founder, and the mistakes that I made starting out just made me realize that, oh my God, imagine if as a lawyer I'm making these mistakes. Imagine people who do not have this knowledge. So it was one of the reasons why I, now took special interest in startup law. And of course, that's how we grew, and then we got to the point where we started to build a product, right? And of course, we got a lot of insight from actually even interacting with the users. First thing, we wanted to solve the problem of affordability and access, right? And then interacting with the users, realized that the major problem they had, especially for those of them who wanted to use legal services, was the turnaround time for service delivery, right? You need a lawyer to get something done for you. 1 week, 2 weeks is not done because you're busy with so many other things. Because the lawyer's duties and services are not automated. They are not, there's nothing helping to facilitate them doing their work. So a lot of it is still very manual. So that was another light bulb moment, like, okay, you know what? Access is one, right? But when they have this access, how are you going to help the lawyers now be able to, do things quickly? So, we worked on version 1 of the platform, version 2, version 3 is out now. We're already working on version 4, right? That one is going to be AI, ML, machine learning, and all of that.
I'm going to come to that.
Yeah. So right now, the way what happens is you get on the platform, you sign up, you see the list of products that we have, because the idea is to offer a wide suite of services, right? You select the product you want, you make payments, the system gives you options of 3 lawyers to pick from, you select. And then we have like a WhatsApp chat interface where the interaction actually happens, because we want to be able to house the interaction from end to end, because there are so many data points that are lost when you just do the connection and then the interaction happens outside of the platform, right? So we want to be able to contain everything on the platform.
Okay, so you mentioned word of mouth. So how are people hearing about your product?
Okay, so when I started, I did a lot of free legal advisory. Because I just realized that a lot of people were making so many mistakes just because they did not know. And then the first thought anybody has in their head is, lawyer is expensive, right? And it's out of your reach, right? So I joined as many communities SME communities as I could join, startup communities I could join, with founders, with entrepreneurs. And you know, when they ask certain questions, I give my 2 cents, right? And I'll just, and of course, before I know what's happening, my DM is flooded. Yeah. And that was it. And then, once you are able to do that, then I always would approach, personally, I would approach business schools, people that had like communities, and say, you know what, let me just come and give a talk about legal service. Because I also realized that when you see all these business schools, legal is always missing. They talk about finance, they talk about sales, marketing, you know, social media, everything. But more often than not, the legal side of things is always missing. So I always, you know, offer myself to be able to offer, you know, these things. And then from there, you know, it trickles down and it trickles in.
Question, you know, like when like people like you are trying to redefine the playing field, especially in your area, how does the establishment, when I say the establishment, the traditional firms see you? Do they see you as a threat? Do they see you as an enabler of things to come?
Okay, well, so it's both.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of happy because, for example, the MBA is waking up, right? They already have a digital bar, right? And my friend, who is also a legal tech founder, is, you know, in charge of that. So people are starting to wake up to see, you know what? This thing is not here to take away the jobs. If anything, it's here to enable and make things faster, right? And there's so many parts of legal services and legal practice that needs to be technology enabled, from research to document drafting to, you know, court process drafting, filing, so many things, right? So I think people are starting to wake up and take notice and also use these services, because of course there are people who just create products just to enable the lawyers with their work, right? We are doing both, to enable the lawyers and also enable the businesses on one hand. Interesting.
So like from an impact perspective, so like how many lawyers like do you have on your platform? How many businesses, how many people have you impacted?
Okay, since inception, about 2 years ago, so far, as at the last count, we've done 157 businesses. We've offered services to 157 businesses. We currently have 10 on retainer, right? 2 B2B partnerships. By B2B, because we also like to be able to harness community, right? So we have this venture studio that we are also a part of, and then we also offer services to all the startups in their portfolio, right? And for the lawyers, yes, we have about 10. So, but the thing is, I do not want to have too many, because while I was trying to recruit lawyers for this, I realized that some of them mentioned that they were already members of other platforms, but they were not getting jobs, right? So I would rather scale as the demand expands, right? As opposed to having so many people and then they're not getting enough jobs.
Okay, my final question, the most exciting one. So we talked about, you mentioned AI earlier, and so like, I mean, I see it as an enabler, but also a destroyer of services. One that, from a DIY perspective, I can go to ChatGPT and it can give me some advice, right, on certain things. How do you see it? I mean, how do you see AI from your perspective in terms of enabling your business, you know, changing the way people look at your business, reducing your profit, increasing your profit? It'd be good to know.
Okay, I get this question a lot,
imagine,
right?
Yes.
So,
good. Yeah.
So basically, what we're trying to do is keep the lawyers in the equation, and for this reason. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is what it is, right? There's still the human side of it. A human being still needs to give it a prompt for you to get maximum output out of it, right? If you're not a lawyer, you might not know how to prompt it to get the maximum output out of it. Yeah. That's one. 2, machine learning is a system where, you know, you feed this system with information and then it keeps learning and it gets smarter, right? So now what we want to be able to do is plug it in. Once, for example, you as a user, you request for a document, you of course give the prompt all the information you need. By the time you're connecting to the lawyer already gets a draft of what it is that you want. The lawyer will just, you know, ask you 1 or 2 things to further personalize that document, right? And then of course you can be sure that in just a couple of hours you get that. Now what that does is that lawyer's input has made the machine smarter. Now by the time you have 100 lawyers or more, keep feeding all of that info, you will find out in a couple of weeks to months to years, the system becomes almost perfect. So another thing is, there are so many of these platforms that already exist, but people are still doing contracts and business transactions without documents, and that goes to tell you that some people just want that personal touch, right? They don't even have this time to sit down and start saying, okay, what should be in it, what should not be in it. You're not even a lawyer. What do you know that should actually be? What clauses do you know should be in it? You could employ two people in the same room, but you have different terms. How do you know to codify those separate terms in the separate documents? What you probably just get is a template for, and it might not even capture as much.
Excellent, and that's a great answer. I'm going to thank you for coming on TechTurks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Conversation offline.
Oh, thank you.